We are back one more time with a bit more trouble in paradise with this particular guitar. Now this was the one where the fingerboard was lifting on this side and we glued it down. Matt had sent this up from South Carolina, and we all know what the truss rod is supposed to do. As you saw in that last video with the Guild and the Gibson J150 acoustic guitars, we needed to correct the frets at the top end. Pretty typical neck to body junction, and it's much the same even with the solid body electric guitars. But with this guitar in particular, there's so much discrepancy in the lay of the neck that I did talk to the customer about this, and we are going to do a refret on this one. Not because the frets are worn out, but because the lay of the neck is just not cooperating. So we are going to correct the wood of the fingerboard. So what I've done is I have put that little bit of load on the truss rod, not a lot. I've made contact and then given it about 1/3 of a turn. Now we're going to correct the fingerboard laser level along its length. Of course, we've got to start by removing the frets. So let's do that. So we have now blended all the discrepancies up at this end of the neck and the discrepancies at that first couple of inches up to the second fret. When I put that straight edge up now, I can still see a little bit of light here. So this is the middle of the neck. We barely even touched it. So what I'm going to use now to sort of finish this sort of final blend along the trajectory of the string path from the nut right past the last fret is this 120 block. This is a 14-inch radius actually. It's really like a Les Paul radius on a Strat fingerboard. I think that's why Matt, fell in love with this thing, because you could do all those high bends. So what I'm using now is this 120 grit, sort of keeping in line with the string path. I'm going to check it in a second. Check that again. And that is pretty well perfect. Now I am going to check the truss rod in a second. Like I've mentioned in other videos, I actually have a bit of load on that truss rod, and I've trued that neck up laser straight end to end. And we're going to relieve that truss rod and see what we got. So I'm loosening off that truss rod now because I had a little bit of load on there, and you can see the light underneath the straight edge. Now when I tighten it back up, there we go. We have full truss rod function, and now we're ready to install frets. Well, who isn't a sucker for a banana cream Strat with a rosewood fingerboard? Done at last. New frets are in, level crowned and polished. So I'm cutting the string to length, but I'm keeping the tension on the string the whole time, otherwise it'll slip out at the other end. Here's what I'm doing. I'm guiding it with my thumb, and I'm tensioning the string with these 3 fingers, maintaining that tension so that the other end doesn't slip out of the bridge. You can see why Fender ditched this design. If you know what you're doing, it's not a big deal. Alright, moment of truth. Let's go check this thing out. loop this in G major. So you're going to let that play. This is the wrap-up. I thought give everybody sort of a heads up on this bridge and how it works. So you can see it still has 3 springs like a typical Strat. Looks like they're a little bit heavier gauge than your typical, certainly longer. And the fulcrum is underneath the bridge. And there's your ground wire. We're just about to hook that up. We've just dropped a set of bare knuckles pickups in this. I mean, I've been wiring guitars for years, but really, for the most part, it's pretty simple stuff. So let's have a look at these new pickups. Well, this is the True Grit set of bare knuckles. A couple of very basic wiring tips. And for most weekend warriors that swap pickups out, I mean, I guess the biggest tip is to just try and keep it neat. And like I said, it's pretty simple stuff. So one by one, put this pickup in first, ran the wires, and a very simple tip is to clip off the original wires like you see here. Clip them off, leave a little 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch piece so you know exactly where you're going when you go to wire in the new pickup. The 3 red wires went to the switch, 3 black wires went to the back of the volume pot. This is a little bit of a tip. I did use this weight, little lead weight, to kind of hold those 3 wires in place as I soldered them to the back of the pot. So you got a 5-way switch. That one jumper wire, I did switch it to cloth from plastic. You know, I think that's basically it. We're ready to drop it into the guitar. So I took the original covers that were kind of yellowed a bit and used those on the new pickups because the new covers were like just a little too white. You can see the original color in compared to the aged color. The original pickup covers are just a better match to the finish. I've always loved that sort of aged cream colored Strat. So we're ready to drop the whole harness into place. This is the beauty of the Strat wiring. You can take the whole harness out, do all your wiring on the bench, and when you're done, you just stick it back in the guitar. Well, I've been chewing at this like a dog on a bone. So I thought I would pull it apart, have a real good look, so that both you and I clearly understand what this drum system is all about. Now the main reason I pulled it apart was the bar itself was just slopping and flopping, so I wanted to tighten it up. So this is essentially what we've got. This is our fulcrum. This is Shaler Engineering, German engineering. Quite ingenious, actually. This bar receives the edge of the tremolo and is bolted into place with these machine screws that are received into these female inserts in the body. It's quite ingenious the way they've done this. So as you can see, we've got this heavy metal plate that provides the fulcrum. This set screw, which is adjusted from the face, so it's basically in dive-only position right now. I did do a little bit of research online. I saw a couple of pictures, but nobody took the time to actually make a video so you could see clearly, made in Germany, German engineering at its best. A very interesting solution for a top mount vibrato system for a Strat. Just wanted to show you that. So now we'll put it all back together. This is the retainer bar that bolts into place into those female inserts. Obviously the Achilles heel on this one is that issue with the ball ends of the strings. One of my subscribers recently mentioned that, well, why don't you use the Fender bullets? And this is definitely one of those forests for the trees where I completely overlooked that. Thank you for mentioning that, because that is exactly what I'm about to do, install a set of Fender bullets. Okay, so now we can just tuck those bare knuckles pickups back into place. Bringing you in real close here to show you how you feed these strings in. The bottom end goes in first, and then you're up and over. Here's our third string, same thing, poke it in bottom end first, and then flip it up. Our fourth string, well, here we go, moment of truth. This has been recalibrated for 9 to 46 hybrid string, and we did switch over to the Fender bullets, which definitely work better with this particular bridge. Although Matt doesn't actually use the tremolo bar, I still wanted to make a point about that once the instrument is calibrated and regulated with a compensated nut, and of course the bridge saddles as well, that the tuning is unbelievably stable. So we'll just check the bar first. And the first string. Here's the final test before we bring it in and plug it in. 7th fret, octave. Fourth string. string. First string. So here's our continuing saga of the cream-colored Strat. So I have recalibrated it for 9 to 46 strings at concert pitch. Of course, we've got the compensated nut, and you've had that little tour of the Shaler top mount tremolo system. Just volume and tone in this one. We dropped that set of bare knuckles True Grit pickups in, and now it's fully calibrated. So I have looped a progression in A. So I'm going to let that play, and I'll go through the positions on the 5-way switch, and you can hear this guitar. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go through this again in A, but this is just to kind of give you an idea of the Strat tones. I'll just do the same lick 3 or 4 times in a row. Here's our bridge pickup.